everybody, and welcome to something very special. This is the very first episode of the Let's Dig Into That podcast. Let's dig into that. What is that? It's a proclamation, a calling to connect. Our mission is to remain honest and curious to promote intentional connection through meaningful conversations. Now, what does that mean? That means we talk about everything to get to the bottom of it. Mm-hmm. Who you just heard, who I'm with here, is Jordan, my beautiful wife.
Thank you.
She is a lover of humanity, a black belt, and a knower of all, and someone who loves to get involved, and an avid reader. I mean, you know more than most.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, and why we have you here to indulge my curiosities is because you have the letters behind the name. JT is our clinical social worker and practitioner of trust-based relational intervention.
TBRI?
That is TBRI for those at home, which is basically practicing how to make us all better communicators, more gentle souls as we coexist on this planet in this moment in time. And so it is a pleasure to be speaking with you about all the things.
Appreciate you.
Yep. And so
Feels weird being the expert, but I guess I am.
Well, the topic today, we'll see who the expert is. And it's hopefully neither of us. What we don't know.
Yeah. So what we're talking about today, the other day, this is a real situation. We got in a little tiff. I came up the stairs, and something you'll learn about Jordan as you continue to listen is that she always has sound going. Usually it's the Gilmore Girls, and we have a special saying called Spill the Gill. But today it was something way different. It was Ali Wong's new Netflix special, which was fantastic, by the way. But she is talking about getting back into the dating game post her 10-year marriage. And it brought us to this conversation of, man, we're both divorced. Sex post-divorce. That was an interesting time in my life, an interesting time in your life, and I want to hear more about it. Sort of.
There's where the tiff came to pass, is in the sort of. But in our pledge to remain, partnered in this, that there is a comfort level with, this is such a personal topic, and, we are only preaching what has been our experience, that, I am very much aware that JT does not need to know any or all of the gory details, whereas I am like, here's my list of questions for follow-up. And so as we enjoyed having this conversation, we thought, why not share it with the masses?
Right.
And so he is correct. And as you'll find here, we often will find ourselves on opposing sides or differing experiences. And so it's really nice to be enlightened on the perspective there. But I got divorced first.
Yes, that's true.
So would you like me to...
Yeah, believe it or not, what was sex like after your divorce? Like, how did it unfold? How did it make you feel? Tell me more about it.
Great. My relationship lasted 10 years, a little over 10 years. And so that was a long time. And so there is something that, I don't know if we want to call it entitlement, but the short answer to my sex after divorce is like buffet at a fusion restaurant. Like I was,
Gross.
I know. So, there's a level of grossness. Like
I mean that with no judgment.
I didn't take it with any, because there were some moments where I said to myself, gross. And so, but it's also because I am at heart a monogamous, deeply impassioned, loving person. And so it was like a test drive in cars that I knew I was never gonna buy. Okay. And so I would hate to think that, and I'm sure it's inevitable, that there were feelings and hurt things, in the past that happened. Yeah. However, I don't have regret about that time. I should probably be careful in certain parts of Mexico, but but I think that it was important for me to have that. And then it became very vapid, very shallow, very quickly. And I knew that I was wired differently for intimacy. I think that it was an opportunity to explore sexuality and also kind of differentiate, like, this is sex or this is a connection.
So I love that you can differentiate intimacy and sex. But what was it about that you had to experience these new things? Was it just that you were coming out of a relationship, or were you trying to get off? Like, was there?
Oh, there's definitely like you want to know you still got it sort of a thing.
Yeah.
I wanted to feel seen. It was a really hard struggle. Like I didn't feel wanted in my own home and space, and nothing awful, but just like an indifference. And I wanted to feel, yeah, desired and desirable. And I wanted to, yeah, as you're well aware, I have a tendency to go after things that I want, that it was like kind of hedonistic impulse that I would be like, why the hell not? Like, yeah, I'm going to make out with that dude in the bathroom for a minute. But like, yeah. And so it was a little sloppy at times. And so, but I needed to, yeah, flesh that out.
Yeah, and some sort of self, boost.
Yeah. Ego
Af-
boost, self esteem requisite that, yeah, where, yeah.
okay. And so here comes the bigger question, the thing that I'd be more in tune with. If I was working with you as a client, my question to you would be, how did it make you feel after the fact? Let's call it a phase. I don't know what to call
Freedom
it.
slut.
Freedom slut.
Yeah. Is the phase how we,
And so
yeah.
would you agree that it ran its course?
Yes.
And how did you feel post? Like when that was all done?
Fine, which is kind of nice. I think, like, unfortunately, by the way, neither of us drink any longer, but met through wine. And so alcohol has been a major player. So, like,
Respect for it, even though
yes,
we're not consumers of.
right. Not no longer consumers of, yet crazily, or, my mortgage still has some wine money in it. And so it's amazing. Yeah,
So
the gratitude I have for, and yeah. So we are grateful to be on this side, but all of those situations did just, have a level of inebriation
yeah.
implicit. But I think my choice at that time was more a conversation perhaps for a separate time on what role does sex, um, companionship, what did I want or need? Because as you're unfortunately well aware, I don't necessarily need to live with someone to love them with my whole heart.
I am aware of
And
that.
but
Yes.
I very much enjoy living with you, and there's massive benefit, but I can rock it doing that on my own. And so I think that it was like, okay, I am going to kind of, I didn't take long enough to get to know myself, and I wish I would have stayed in that window before I went into a long dating. I went into a longer relationship at that point. And so that's the one looking back, but I felt like, okay, it's time to reassess kind of yeah.
Gotcha. Well, I think that that's a really healthy answer. Like, in all honesty, I think going through that phase is beyond natural. And it makes me really happy to hear that you don't have regrets and that you don't, you know, slut shaming is a thing. And it's not fair.
Right. It happened. I made that choice in the moment, and who knows what combination of, yeah. It's unfortunate to think how much of outside approval and
Yeah.
acceptance is tied up in that. But it's like, it happened, own it. I think that's the part. Like, if I allowed myself to stew in shame, it'd be real easy. But
Uh,
I have made the conscious decision where I'm like, you got yourself here. Let's keep, yeah, only forward. But enough about me. I feel like, I know we'll circle back. It's inevitable.
well, I've got one more
All
question
right, there.
before we move on. And that question is, what did you learn from the experience? Like, what is your main takeaway from, and I would only use the word slut because you did,
Freedom
but
slut.
in
Yeah.
your freedom slut phase, like, what did you take away from that?
How, how very personal it is, and how I wish it was okay to talk about it. Because yes, there's no real normal of anything, but like the age, I was young enough, like, yes, and so that I wish I didn't have a ton of folks in my network that had been through something similar in the recent past,
Can
but
relate to that, yeah.
yes, but I did have enough. There were enough humans I could have reached out to, but it just felt, yeah, I wish it was easier to talk about, and, kind of, because also I think that had I been more honest with myself first, but also with my girlfriends, that they would have subconsciously, they're amazing human beings, but probably pulled some trickery of like finding ways to fill that void of other things. Like we're going dancing and we're going hard, or like
Yeah.
we would have, just had fun. Like we would have engaged more, but there was a little bit of,
And
risky business.
I said that was the last question. I guess I lied because it led me to another one.
First of many.
If you had a companion, a friend that you could have these vulnerable conversations with, what do you think would have changed? Like, nothing needs to change, in my opinion, but would it have changed your course of action for the better, for the worse? What do you think?
Great question, because unique case, because I think it probably would have been, if I had opened up, it would have most likely led to an alcohol-related discussion.
More of an intervention than
Right.
topic shifted.
Right.
Gotcha.
And so, because, the Jordan didn't go away, but man, Monique, my alter ego, she had an agenda. And so, hard to reason with that.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for being so vulnerable, and I think we're talking about it, so hopefully more people will.
Yeah, it doesn't feel great to be like, where it's like, yes, I, reassessed and really took time to reflect and self-care and really was, ready for you when you stepped into my life. Absolute not the case. Like dead opposite. Like our worlds had literally individually exploded in their own way, and then we latched on in this very vulnerable way, which is what makes us so cool, because we have this permission to fail. We came in with like, you messed up, guess what, me too. And that makes evolution together. It's just such an awesome opportunity.
Awesome.
But yes, so
I love
circling
that.
back.
Well, if you described your sex after divorce as a buffet, I think mine would be more like a self-packed bag lunch. Like if I had to put
Sack lunch is too good for sex after.
Yeah. I did not have a freedom slut phase. In fact, there was quiet.
Yes.
I
Celibacy of.
I had some relational trauma. I've only been in 3 long-term relationships that all ended poorly, and the self-worth was really in the gutter, and as well as so many other things post-divorce
Yes.
in my lifetime, that my experience was so much different. And
much like what I offered there, really went for it. It is so special that you, I will say, after the Ali Wong moment, chose to engage in this conversation, because it is really special. You had a unique where you felt some shame coming out of your divorce that did not end well.
it did not. And again, we'll get into that in another episode, but my marriage fell apart because I wasn't honest with my wife. I didn't feel comfortable to be vulnerable and tell her what was going on. And, I led her to believe that I had a lot of money that I thought was coming in from situations, and then it didn't. And looked pretty foolish and felt pretty foolish. And it was an awful experience, but
Makes it hard to get it up.
yeah, that's 100% true. And you know this, and I'm not saying anything crazy here, but the opportunity was there.
Yeah, you're a good looking dude.
like-
If you needed that rebound, Boulder, Colorado, I'm just going to go for it, was at the time where you were located. And it's not difficult to find an attractive female in that zip code, yes, who might be interested in a lovely conversation.
That is true. Yes.
And so opportunity there, but you also have a unique, I don't know how much you're willing to elaborate, but sex after divorce is one thing. You are a sex with relationship,
Yes.
sex with commitment. I know your blood type kind of man.
Yeah, I really don't feel comfortable engaging in any sexual activity until I feel a bond, some kind of connection. And I know that I'm weird. Throughout college, girls would hide naked in closets and wait for me to come around.
Don't brag about it.
Well, and my reaction is like, I look back and I'm like, man, I was such a
Prude.
child.
Prude is the friend term. Your
Yeah.
friends have lovingly
Yeah,
utilized
I
prudish.
I don't jump into situations, and yeah, I mean, I've had girls call me gay. I realize that it's not the stereotypical normal thing for me to need that level of intimacy to get there. And uh yeah, my sex after divorce, I literally, when I got divorced, thought that would be the last time I had sex ever.
Right. So that's a vision for your
Yeah.
future. And so you're saying make it out in a bathroom in Mexico, not something you just know.
No, I mean, and again, I'm happy to say alcoholic. I'm the first person to raise my hand and introduce myself in a meeting, and I would do the same for intimacy issues. Like, I don't do well in a physical situation with another person until I have this higher level of connection, and I don't know where that comes from, to be honest, but I
Is
would
it like generational Catholicism?
I am a recovering Catholic, and I think that there's definitely some in there. My sex talk with my very Catholic father was, "Don't do it till you're married," and
Right.
that was it. No information passed down, and so there's a level of insecurity that comes with my celibacy and need for more of a connection where I didn't get taught the things. I didn't, at that stage in my life, I didn't know much about female anatomy. I didn't know a ton about what I was supposed to do. And I had this assumption based on my past relationships that sex wasn't enjoyable for my partner either.
Ah, yes.
And all the girls that I have dated in my past, you're the first one, thank the Lord, that doesn't have a horrible thing that females deal with called endometriosis.
That is true that you have a very tragic, I feel, yeah, my sympathies go out. Because that is, yeah, pain on pain.
Yeah, and so all of my sexual experiences leading up into my second marriage felt like they were bad. They gave me the sense of they don't enjoy this the same way that I do. And I'm trying to like connect and bond, and sex was not a fun experience in my life up until meeting my second wife.
Well, that, yep. How about them apples?
Yeah.
And so, yes, sex after divorce, I think the punchline is yeah, there's no one way about it.
No.
And yeah, the hope here is to kind of make it okay to be like, yeah, this feels inauthentic to me, or yeah, having a crew of folks that you can surround yourself with if you so choose to chat.
Well, and again, the whole platform that we're building here is about being vulnerable. And what I could have done different in that situation would be the potential person who might want to have sex with me disclose some of this stuff. Be like, here's where I stand, as opposed to running away or getting too drunk to make it an impossibility. Like, that was a move for sure.
Right.
Like, how crazy is that?
I didn't think about that as an out. Right.
That was a move that I legitimately pulled when
Exercised.
yeah, of like, oh, well, I've had too much. Like, this is not going to happen.
Yeah.
And it was intentional. Like, so punchline being, I really think that if you can be vulnerable with someone, it's a good indicator if that person's someone you want to be in a relationship with. If you can come to them and say, hey, look, I've got some relationship trauma and some sex trauma of like, it hasn't been great for me, and it makes me uncomfortable. It's so vulnerable to say that out loud.
And
But
incredibly bonding if executed with your person, because that's the thing is we get hung up on, being vulnerable because of some really valid reasons that it is scary, and to be what if someone changes their opinion of you, or that relationship is eternally altered, or but the thing is when if you step back enough, more often than not, your people are the people that stick around. And so we are all flawed. We have all made choices that we blush about, and it's a-okay because life is way too short to get hung up there. And so, yeah, reframing that shame to be like, get this. And then being able to set that down and move on, I think is but Thank you for making the point. Your journalism background, again, why we have you here. You've got the Q&A down, but I think that's really amazing that you're right, not coming from a place of fear, but a place of hopeful, well-intentioned connection of I'm going to give this up to you and put it out there. And yeah, it may backfire, but the hope is in the long run.
Well, and to sort of conclude with my particular situation, when that intimacy does come, it's so much more special. And I feel like you would have the information on that, but like when we finally did it, it was next level. It was
Accurate.
It was special because we had talked about things. You understood my background and how I
You
felt about
almost
things.
told me in time. No. But I do think it was an amazing, conversation. Like that experience is one of my favorite memories in my lifetime because it was so sincere and so overwhelmingly freeing to be like, I put it out there and it was that I got you moment.
Yeah.
And so I did make a joke about a squirrel and its nut in the moment, but it lightened the mood. And then it was amazing.
I remember the joke a little differently. It was like trying to shove mashed potatoes.
Oh, God bless it. God
Yeah,
bless it. So here we are. So one and done, but it has been an honor. If there is someone out there listening, we are so grateful. That is, in the hope that you are willing to chat with somebody about those feelings that keep running around.
Curious, honest, leads to the best results. Truly it does. It may suck for a second, but that's how you're really going to find your authentic connection with someone that you really care about. Right?
That's right.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for listening to the first ever podcast of Let's Dig Into That. Please come back. We're going to talk about even more stuff that's going to make you blush.
That's right.